Hello, I'm Priya Mohan. Today we travel to the Horn of Africa to talk to human rights activist Ilwad Elman from Somalia about women, her rape crisis center, and the role of media in conflict zones. She's been shortlisted for the Nobel Peace Prize 3 times, and she's considered one of the most influential voices of Africa and the Somali peace process. Welcome to GMF Talk, Ms. Elman.
Thank you very much for having me.
Somalia is currently electing a new parliament, and it looks like both chambers will include around 30% of women delegates. In politics and beyond, what is the current situation of women in Somalia?
Well, the 30% quota that we're looking for is a crucial first step towards the equal representation of women in all sectors of life, and for them to be a part of the processes that ensure their own well being. There's a real concern right now in the current elections that the levels of representation of women will decrease. With the political stalemate that we've been facing in Somalia since February, the political tensions and the violence that we've been experiencing over the last couple of months, we have seen the hard won gains and the progress made over the last 10 years being threatened. The political environment in Somalia is not conducive to women, with many male leaders promoting male candidates. The financial entry points being limiting not only for women, but ever more so for youth. With a population of 78% of the population under the age of 30, this is ever discriminative. It costs $5,000 to compete for a parliamentary seat, $20,000 for a contender for a senator seat. These challenges are compounded by violence and discrimination, and all through a system that is inherently discriminative, exclusionary, and patriarchal. And through our work at the Elman Peace Center, we try to apply attention and pressure on all the key actors to support women's participation and representation in the elections.
As you said, the Elman Peace Center, you're committed to end the sexualized violence, a crime that often affects women, right? But to what extent should we expand that statement to include men and children of all genders?
Well, we believe by tackling gender inequality through political participation of women, we believe they'll be able to address the root of gender-based violence. And when we talk about gender-based violence, it is certainly not just something that affects women and girls. Men and boys have been the targets of systemic and extensive gender-based violence in Somalia. It's usually clan-related. Their young men are threatened with death. They're subject to torture. They're profoundly humiliated. They're coerced to participate in militia groups and terrorist organizations. Men and boys have been forced to perpetuate and to witness rape and other sexual violations against women and girls, including their own family relatives. And it's still a concept that many Somali people are struggling with to understand, but the devastating social and psychological consequences of war on men is often overlooked, and the entire concept of gender has become a women's issue. Throughout Somalia, the prevalence of rape is the highest in camps and the internally displaced people settlements, and it's particularly affecting minority groups. But there has been a shift towards collective or gang rape that is perpetrated by youth from different clans, a little known phenomenon that we didn't have before the war. The targets of this kind of collective rape are now including children, orphans, street children, male children, as well as women and girls. There's also growing information about male on male sexual violence in Somalia. This is often seen in detention facilities through our work with the rehabilitation and reintegration of young people that we're supporting to disarm and reintegrate into society. We see that the weapon of sexual violence is also something that men and young boys are perpetuated against.
Moving to the media landscape, yeah. Recently, Abdi Aziz Mohammed Guled, a prominent Somali journalist and critic of the Islamist militant group Al Shabaab, was recently killed in Mogadishu. And Reporters Without Borders continues to list Somalia as Africa's most dangerous countries for media personnel. Now, could you just tell us something about the current media landscape and the reporting of these insensitive and precarious subjects?
Somalia for a long time has been one of the most dangerous places for journalists, and we see that with very little support, a very restrictive environment, that young, brave journalists continue to report from the front lines on both the progress of the society, but also the regress, and often at the front lines of the war. We see an ever shrinking space for civil society, which includes journalists as well too. So they remain under threat, and this is an issue that is causing a lot of challenges for the community to also be aware of the changes that are happening so rapidly. And we definitely believe there's a war on journalists, and the unfortunate and untimely and senseless death of Mr. Abdelaziz is a reminder of that, a painful reminder of that.
to further your cause, what you are doing currently, what role does the media play now? And how do you use TV, social media, or other forms of journalistic communications to raise awareness?
We use the media in various ways through our work, and not only just to send messages outside of Somalia, to raise advocacy, to push for policy priorities, to create ripples and layers of solidarity where we're able to communicate what's happening at the grassroots level, to also apply pressure from the international community down back into our society, but also to educate our own constituents, our community, our number one stakeholder. And what is a little known fact probably about Somalia is that we are very digitally connected. I think recently Somalia was ranked as the seventh cheapest place in the world for internet, for high-speed internet. And that also motivates our use of social media to create campaigns on Instagram and Facebook to really target the younger demographic and to create opportunities for critical thinking by not only dispelling myths, but also giving maybe a softer way to digest the big issues that we work on. So the communication is a critical part of our work.
Being such a young woman activist, Ms. Elman, and leaving the safety of Canada, returning with your mom to Somalia, still brim with violent conflict, right? Facing such extreme insecurities, giving support to rape survivors. Could you just tell us a little bit more about your personal challenges and how it has been since the time you've been to Canada, from Canada?
Well, I came back to Somalia in 2010. It wasn't an easy journey. When I returned to Somalia, to Mogadishu, the city that has 17 districts was at that time only two of those districts were controlled by the government. The rest was controlled by Al Shabaab, and it was a literal war zone. So everything that I saw in mainstream media about Somalia is what I was confronted with. But I've also seen that the reason why I stayed is that the demographics that we're trying to support, the overwhelming majority of the society, both perpetrators and victims of the conflict that has protracted for my whole life, for more than 30 years, is affecting young people. And I found that there's value in the youthful lens in which we approach very difficult issues, whether it's human rights, gender justice, equality, dignified livelihoods. They're tools and programs that we offer for young people that are created by young people. And the changes that I'm seeing every day in Somali society are a testament to the change that can happen when you're dealing with young populations. Their minds are malleable, they're adaptable, and this also is linked to how we use creative means of communication. In Somalia, the TikTok hashtag Somali TikTok has 1.4 billion impressions. So we use these different platforms to also engage with younger audience to be decision makers in the processes that really ensure their own well-being. And it's I think an important direction that we need to see peace and conflict resolutions by engaging all parts of society and looking at young people as not just beneficiaries or implementing partners of these processes, but critical stakeholders in the resolution of conflicts.
Wow. These were some of the very important and touching insights into work. And with this kind of a commitment that you have, you really, really strive forward to bring about a positive change for young men and women in Somalia, Africa, and beyond. Not just you don't just talk about the what do you call this just the current situation in Somalia, but you also focus on solutions in crisis reporting, Ms. Elman. That for me is very I find it very amazing, and your dedication to your work is truly inspiring. Thank you for sharing your experiences with us.
Thank you for having me.
I hope you've all found today's short deep dive in the most eastern corner of the African continent as interesting as I did. Do make sure to tell us what you think of this talk in the comments. Signing off for now, until next time, stay healthy.